Welcome back, everybody, to the Wandering Samurai Study, in which we review and analyze every single act told in Rurouni Kenshin, and today's act is Act 81, Shakku's Wish. We did it, everybody. We finished up the Cho fight. We get the immediate follow-up to the last chapter. We get the revelation that Cho did not die, and Kenshin's vow has not been broken. It was all good. We get the wrap-up with Shakku's family. And then there's a cliffhanger at the end that sets up the next chapter. It's all good. It's all good. We continue the story from here. Man, we really got stuck in the Cho stuff. But anyways, I really liked the levity between Okina and Misao in this chapter. It's the only bit of it that we really get. It's a pretty much straightforward, serious chapter through and through. Except for this one moment where Cho just wakes up again and he's still being Cho, and Misao just being the comic relief. She's kind of being like Yahiko. I can easily see Yahiko stepping in and doing the same thing, but when she and Okina just kind of exchange minimal words, that dynamic right there, I love it. It really shows that they are characters that know each other really well, that they can exchange minimal words to each other. And Misao goes in and knocks him out for good, and like that's it. Cho's gone. Like, we're done with him. Misao made sure of that with Okina's approval. But let's get into the chapter summary review, and we'll get into this chapter. There's a lot to cover. Picking up right where the last chapter left off, Kenshin's slash connects with the sword hunter Cho. A cold breeze passes as Kenshin begins to process what had just happened, and realizing that the sword he used was a Sakabato, a reverse blade sword just like his last weapon. Cho reawakens on the floor with the premonition that Kenshin has only defeated one of the Jupongatana, and that there are two that are stronger than he is, Sojiro and Usui. After Misao knocks out the defeated sword hunter, Seiku is left confused as to why his father's sword was non-lethal when his father spent his life crafting killing weapons. The handle on Kenshin's sword shatters, revealing a poem dedicated to Shakku's grandson. The group spends time processing Shakku's final work. Kenshin remembers his final interaction with Shakku, and he humbly accepts the Sakabato's true forge. Kenshin bids his farewell to the family, thus concluding this story. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is the Sakabato's reveal. Picking up exactly where the last chapter left off, Kenshin and everybody, reading, doesn't really know what is going on. The tension is very thick in the air. There's even a whoosh that is seen in the chapter. It's pretty good stuff, but I don't know what people expected to happen. I think I mentioned in the last chapter that, was Kenshin gonna lose his mind? Was Kenshin gonna go and sign up for the military? I don't really understand it. I get that Kenshin broke his vow, or Kenshin would have broken his vow, and that's something that he'd have to live with. But I don't see what's beyond that. What did the author have in mind if Kenshin were to ever break that vow? But luckily, that's not what happened here. And if you paid enough attention, you can kind of see that it wasn't gonna go down that way. That there was always going to be a way for Kenshin to defeat Cho without breaking his vow. And the reason that I say this is because before the Shakku stuff or the Seiku stuff started, when Kenshin first arrived in Kyoto and talked to Okina a few chapters ago, there were two storylines that were being set up. This one, the stuff with Cho and the Sakabato, and the other one, Kenshin asks Okina if he can search for two men. And immediately following that chapter, the setup to this chapter began. And I don't remember at the top of my head if they actually mentioned the name of the previous person, but I believe that from here, this is where the story is going to go. It's going to immediately pick up with the next person. So this was a seed that was planted a few chapters ago, and this one sprouted, and we got our little plant, and now we're waiting for the next one to begin. But it could have been interesting to see where the story would have gone otherwise, and it could have easily taken the story in a different direction had Kenshin broken his vow, and it would have been cool to I guess, explored that possibility, but unfortunately that's not what happened. And Kenshin remains pure. His vow never broken, at least not in this moment. And good, because I don't think Cho was worth the vow being broken, but at least that's not what happened. I think maybe Shishio could have done it, and it would have been pretty interesting. But the next thing we're going to talk about is Cho's Premonition. As I mentioned, this is the end of this little mini arc, and it just had to wrap up what was just seen, all of the chapters that we just read, and basically leave enough open and set up more so that the story can continue. That Shishio is not exactly... Well, Shishio is the end game. However, there are still roadblocks to overcome. And we got Kenshin Sakabato, and Cho is defeated. One of the Jupongatana. There's 9 other. Two of them are even stronger than Kenshin is. And, I mean, we can see that Kenshin could have easily handled Cho. Like, Kenshin was not worried about him. It only became a difficult fight because of his handicap. And now that Kenshin doesn't have this handicap, there needs to be a reminder that the Jupongatana is not exactly a pushover. And though he just defeated Cho because of what just happened, the next 2 people that Kenshin might have to face, the next 2 roadblocks that they have to overcome, are going to be even more challenging. And we get a reminder that one of those challenges is actually the person who broke the Sakabato Sojiro. It's a nice way to remind the reader and to remind Kenshin that the story isn't over and there's more to come. And it's only going to get harder from here. So from here, we're going to talk about the Sakabato. This is the true forge of the Sakabato. What Kenshin had before was a shadow forge. It was called Kageuchi. And what I really liked about this is that this is essentially an upgrade. This is Kenshin kind of like powering up, coming out of this story stronger than he was before, because what he has is a better sword. A sword that will unlikely break when dealing with Sojiro or Shishio. Now, there is going to be a rematch between Sojiro and Kenshin coming up. And now we know that, because we know that there's a rematch between Sojiro and Kenshin coming up, the true forge of the Sakabato guarantees us that the rematch will not result in the same way that it did last time with Kenshin's sword breaking. Kenshin now has the tool that he needs to rematch Sojiro and to take on Shishio when that time comes. We didn't come out of this arc with nothing. We came out with a Kenshin getting an upgrade, kind of getting his Kaioken or whatever you want to call it. The tools that he needs to defeat his enemies. And as I already mentioned, the Kageuchi, the Shadow Forge, which is what Shakku gave Kenshin prior to the start of the story. I want to talk about that for just a moment. I think it's really cool the way that it did it, that Shakku's son, Seiku, has a very hard time processing and understanding what happened, how Kenshin managed to defeat Cho without killing him using his father's weapon, because he spent his whole life creating killing swords. How is it that his final sword is not a killing sword when that's what the man is known for? It's troubling him. But what we find out is that, like, Shakku and Kenshin, they had an interaction before the start of the series, and Kenshin flashes back to it, and we see that Shakku, somewhere along the line, discovered that what he was doing was wrong, and because they were in the midst of the war, he couldn't exactly stop, and he couldn't exactly change his view on things right away and do it better. Like, I think that he found himself stuck in a position that he had to forge on and create and continue to create these weapons. But he hoped, and he latched on to Kenshin, just as Seiku had, that if anybody can go on in this world with the vow to not kill, it could be Kenshin. And even though he hadn't exactly perfected the Sakabato yet, he gave him the failed version, and just to kind of test him and see, and to tell him, like, hey, if you continue to believe in non-killing, come see me. And he might have given Kenshin the true Sakabato, the Shinuichi. I just like that both of these men found hope in Kenshin, and I think that that's what Kenshin is supposed to represent overall. He's supposed to be hope for a world with peace, hope for people like Shakku's grandson, Iori, that they may live in a world with peace. And I know that Shakku at some point discovered this, and that's why he started working on the Sakabato before he started talking to Kenshin. It's just the connection of Kenshin being hope, and both of these men finding that hope in Kenshin for Iori's sake. And that's really cool. And the final thing that I'm going to talk about is the Secret Life of Characters page. There's a Secret Life of Characters page in this at the end of this chapter, and it's basically for the family. Iori is peace, Seiku is selfishness, and his wife is glue. That's apparently what I have in my notes for this family. Iori is supposed to signify the peace that they're trying to protect, which I can see. Seiku is selfishness. I can see that because he turned Kenshin away through and through. He was only thinking about his family. He was only thinking about protecting himself. And when he jumped in initially, he went in to save Iori, but then like had a change of heart. And went to go get the Sakabato, and the wife is glue, which is just a weird way of saying I don't really have anything for this woman, but I guess, you know, Seiku has a son because of her, and that makes them a family. She's the glue. So the whole storyline about the Holy Sword is a real thing that the author was able to incorporate into the story after doing research, and he said that he wanted to bring the family back with Yahiko. I don't know if that's something that's happening in the new stuff that's coming out at present day, but at least we know, and at the time of this Secret Life of Characters page, that's what he wanted to do, and that would have been cool. That would have been cool to see Yahiko interact with his family. Anyways, this has been Act 81 of Rurouni Kenshin. The raw footage of this is now at 19 minutes. I don't know what the final count of this video will be once it's all edited, but what did you guys think of this chapter? What did you guys think of the Cho mini arc? I think that it is crucial to the Kyoto arc. It's such an important part of the story, and while I found Cho initially annoying when I was a kid and watched the show for the first time, I think that Cho is just such a valuable character that might be slightly underrated, and revisiting these chapters and seeing Cho all over again, he's a frightening man. He's very dangerous, and I think that the author did a good job of creating this character and creating the fear and what it meant for Kenshin and this family, and you know, the upgrade. And I'm looking forward to the next stuff. So I'll see you guys all in the next chapter. Bye, everybody.
Oro.
Is actually the person who broke the Sakabato oh my god, what is his name? Sojiro.